Hey guys, welcome back to our weekly Study Abroad show. I'm Ryan,
I'm Trip.
and so we're just going to tell you about the last week we had, and we did some pretty exciting things, so get ready.
Yep. So we're gonna basically skip right ahead to Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, we did our normal class thing.
Yep. Studied really hard.
Of course, as always. But Wednesday is an off day for a lot of students, especially in the afternoon. So it's when the majority of societies on campus meet. We went to one of the first meetings of a club called Rounders, which Rounders is a sport, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
More like a leisurely activity, I would say, at least in the context that we played, because it wasn't very competitive.
Yeah, it was pretty relaxed. It kind of been described to us as the closest thing that the Brits have to baseball.
Right.
And you could make that argument for sure.
There's
Not sure if I see it, but
There's 4 poles, which are considered the bases, basically. Mm-hmm. You bat one-handed with basically like a police baton, like an old classic
probably, it's hard to get the perspective, probably that long
Right.
at max.
So someone just kind of soft tosses you, more like slow pitch softball
And
or something.
it's pitched softball style, but it's not a softball and it's not a baseball.
Right.
It looks like a baseball, but it's a little bit smaller and it's softer.
Right.
Because they also don't use gloves at all. Anyone out in the field, you just catch it with your bare hands. That's
Right.
pretty much it. There's nothing else to it.
So yeah, you hit the ball. You hold on to the baton, which I had a very hard time. I struggle with that.
As you're running
Right.
on the bases, you hold on to the bat.
So ever since T-ball, I had been taught to release the bat. You don't want to bring that. You might get taken down by an ump or something because they're afraid you're going to assault a player.
Assault player, yeah.
But in Rounders, you just hold on to your baton, run around the bases, hit the little poles on your way around.
And that's how you can lead off too. If you're on the second pole, you can as long as the baton is touching the pole, then you're considered on the base and safe. So you can kind of lead off that way.
Right.
If it was competitive.
And basically, if you're any good at batting and running, you run smart, you're going to score a run almost every time. A full rounder. So
I think the weirdest thing, for me at least, is, besides the fact that I don't find it to be a sport at all because it was really leisurely and you just ended up standing around a lot, but if you're pitched the ball and you miss, swing, you miss, you don't hit the ball, it just rolls behind you and the catcher doesn't catch it, or even if the catcher does catch it, you still run.
Yeah.
You're still running even if you missed hitting the ball.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And I think the idea of the game is for it more to be for a younger generation. I think it's a game that's supposedly played across the generations, but you could definitely see as we were playing it that it was more geared towards
beginning level, just getting into sports and things along those lines.
It was kind of hyped up a little bit to us, I think.
That too.
Especially as I thought we were going into this like a really hard, energy intensive sport. We were going to be running around all the time, and you pretty much run for 10 seconds, and you're around the whole thing. And we even stretched and worked out in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a serious thing. We were in a giant circle, stretching, running laps. And then it ended up being this, so it was kind of strange.
But one plus to going to Rounders was that all the societies dress up for the Wednesday night event at the Student Union.
Every Wednesday,
Vault, which is actually where we are now, is the Vault. It's basically the club in the Student Union, bottom floor, very vacant during the day, so as we record this, but BOP is the biggest night of the week, probably with the exception of maybe Friday night, and all the societies dress in unison and costumes. So, for example,
surrounding one theme, they pick whoever the board is, they pick a new theme every week.
Right. So we went to Rounders, and the theme for Rounders was dress as something that starts with the same letter as your name.
Right.
So I was touristy for Trip, so I had my little passbook and my Waterloo shirt on and all that kind of stuff, and then
my first name begins with an R, obviously, so I went as a rainbow, which I have a shirt that's it's like a party shirt. It's 4 different colors across, so it was rainbow-esque. So we did not go as hard into the theme as
many people.
Many people go all out every single Wednesday, so it seems, for this theme party. It's a really big deal to them. A really big deal.
Yeah.
It was a really fun event.
you could spot out all the rugby players were dressed as Avengers or other superheroes. So there was like a Bane walking around in a Hulk that I kept seeing. And then, so just you could kind of pick out what societies people were members of based on their
And people still go,
costume.
even if they're not part of a society,
Right.
obviously. But there's definitely a society.
It's central.
It's essential. Yeah, it's central
theme
to
of
the
it.
societies.
Okay.
But it's really fun, so we'll maybe throw some stuff in there from then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really fun. That was on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we again just had normal class, studying as usual. So then Friday and Saturday, we decided we weren't going to really do it. We didn't do any big traveling. We decided we were going to stay within the near vicinity of London and that area, so we didn't do any big travels. But we did on Friday decide we don't have classes on Friday either. We did decide to go to Windsor Castle, which is located in Windsor, England, which is about 30 minutes outside of London. So it's we took a train there, successfully navigated our way again, and the big thing about Windsor is they have a really famous castle, called
yeah.
Windsor Castle. And the Queen of England, actually considers that her permanent residence. That's
Right.
where she spends more. The Buckingham Palace is more of her office, as we were described, and this Windsor Castle is more of her home.
So we saw plenty of different stuff in Windsor Castle, starting with, just the immediate interior of the castle. We got some footage of us outside the quadrant, which we'll show you in just a little bit. And we also went to many of the staterooms, which is where the Queen and her guests will, there's a couple different waiting rooms that the guests go through to eventually sit down and eat with the Queen. One of those is sort of an arms room. So it was tradition in England, and it still is in a lot of ways, for there to be a room that's focused on military prowess, basically. So they have just walls covered in guns, pistols, things that are more collectible, older swords and things like that, so that the guest enters the dinner that way, and they're made aware immediately that the Queen is very well protected.
And powerful.
Right.
And the castle had beautiful views too out its windows. It's obviously, as castles usually are, situated on a hill in order to be more protected back in the day when it would ever come under siege. So beautiful views, and the leaves are starting to change in the fall, so it was really pretty there. We also saw part of it, which is called like the dollhouse room.
Oh yeah.
Which is
interesting.
unbelievable. You basically walk in, and we unfortunately weren't allowed to take any pictures or video in there. So we don't actually have anything to show you, but you can Google it. But it's basically someone, as a gift to the Queen years back, built basically a life-size, not a life-size, but a dollhouse to scale version of the castle, complete with like details in the rooms. All the plates were made of real silver.
Yeah.
And they're like that big. But it's just this massive, massive dollhouse. And then she was also gifted dolls from different places. So like the or the government of France gave her a doll that has like French wearing stuff. So just more of all these gifts given to the Queen.
Right. And even some of the very minute details, like the books in the library, for example, of this dollhouse, which are maybe, 1 or 2 inches tall, are filled with actual original content by authors. So an author would author a book and make a miniature version for her doll to have in her library, which is just the level of detail is outstanding.
It was really cool to see.
Yeah.
You kind of have to brace yourself for it, because you think it's like, oh, we're going into like we're going into a dollhouse, like it can't be that impressive, and then it kind of hits you when you walk in.
Yeah.
Like,
super cool. And I guess after that we walked into the room with all the ceramics.
oh yeah.
So had collections that have been acquired throughout probably hundreds of years, I would imagine, of all the different ceramics that different members of the royalty have used. So, plates that there was even one set of plates that had specific patriotic value to the English people, that had pineapples on it and things like that. And it actually bankrupted the creator to build because it was so extravagant. It's very beautiful, but unfortunately not a good outcome for the creator. So.
Hey!
That was so obnoxious.
Oh my god.
So yeah, we just got done visiting Windsor Castle.
Most of the way through.
Most of the way through. We visited the staterooms, the dining room. Yeah, so next we're going to St. George's Chapel.
Yes.
And then we'll probably explore what the city of Windsor has to offer. So.
And this is the quadrant behind us. Beautiful landscape. Some of the finest cut grass I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And this is where the Queen will meet her guests before they go inside
Dignitaries,
her quarters to have lunch.
all that kind of thing, or dinner or something like that. But super cool. So see you later. But yeah, so Windsor Castle overall was beautiful, and then within the grounds of Windsor Castle, there's also a chapel, which is called St. George's Chapel, and it's basically this really historic chapel that's been there ever since. And it was actually cool when we were there. There was like a rehearsal going on for like an orchestra that was playing that night. So it was really cool to get to hear them play in this extremely well acoustic venue, and that was really cool. Which is something most people. I mean, I'd been there before, and I didn't remember ever seeing an orchestra playing. But so we got to see that, so that was cool.
Yeah, lots of different individual altars. Most of them are built in remembrance of someone. The person may or may not be buried there. King Henry VIII and his spouse, I believe, were there.
Are buried there.
Buried there.
In that chapel.
And you can actually see they have stone recreations on top of the grave of the people that are buried there.
Which seems to be a common thing of royalty. We'll get into it later where we saw it somewhere else too, but a lot of the places we've been, that's kind of, if you're a distinguished person, your grave on top kind of has a embodiment of you.
And then we didn't really do a whole lot in Windsor after the castle. We had to stop by. There was a Nando's in town.
And we were quite hungry, and we needed something quick.
Right.
So we couldn't pass up Nando's.
It's, like I said, apparently, so your sister said there's Nando's.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple Nando's in here. I didn't think there was really any in the United States, but apparently there's some in, like, Arlington, Virginia, and different areas. So hopefully they're continuing to expand in the U.S., because...
Big fans.
Big fans, yeah.
Of Nando's. And so, but Friday night, we didn't stay in the town too long. We wanted to get back to the student union because that night, Christian, either Narn or Nairn, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, but the actor who plays Hodor on Game of Thrones, HBO's series, was here playing a DJ set. Apparently he was a DJ prior to being on Game of Thrones, and he kind of adopted some of the, arts and things, not culture, but, some distinguishing things such as, songs from the show and put them into his DJ set. So he travels to college campuses and elsewhere doing Rave of Thrones. So
really cleverly named.
Right. And that was kind of cool. Honestly, not as popular as I would have expected. And Game of Thrones in general, not as popular here as I might have expected. There are still the very devoted fan base that you'll also find in the United States, but they had a special menu, which I don't know if that's was Christians doing or the student unions doing. So
they
had
specialty drinks and cups that were like this big. They were huge. It was ridiculous.
So they had drinks named like the Night Watch and the Red Wedding and the Stark. So if you're a fan of the series, it was very cool to see.
To me, they were just drinks. I don't watch Game of Thrones, so to me, they were just drinks. But super cool, I'm sure, for the Game of Thrones fans out there. And so then after that, that was basically all of Friday. We had decided on Saturday we were going to go into London. We hadn't been there in a couple weeks, maybe a week or so. So we were like, this would be a good time. We were staying nearby anyways. So we decided to go to the Tower of London. Hey guys, we're just sitting on the train. Where are we going, Trip?
Where are we going?
Tower of London.
Tower of London.
You're an old beer thing.
We'll see you in London. Say hi, guys.
Oh, it's hi.
Going into the Tower of London.
We made it off the underground.
And gonna go see some family jewels.
Yeah.
Tower of London.
So we kind of documented our whole journey there, which you'll see. But the Tower of London is super cool. It holds the crown jewels, which is just this vast collection of jewels that have been used over 1,000 years, probably.
Right. Yeah.
If not even more. There's the oldest thing in there, I think, is a coronation spoon from like the 12th century.
Which I didn't even know they had special spoons.
Yeah, who knew?
So-
But the 12th century the spoon was from, which it's hard to even put your mind around that long ago.
Yeah. Pretty nuts.
So there was crowns,
Scepters.
scepters.
The coronation balls, which I'm not even sure what they're, just big, basically Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, and they even have special stuff. So after the coronation, they will have a banquet,
Right.
and they even have special cutlery and plates and stuff that are used for the banquet. So the thing that I thought was crazy, which we again in this area we were not allowed to take pictures or videos or anything. So, but there was basically what they called a punch bowl, and it basically was a giant punch bowl. It was massive.
Yeah.
And it holds 142 bottles of wine in this one giant thing of this one giant punch bowl, and it's everything was gold and really gaudy, but that's kind of the idea with the whole coronation ceremony. So that was really cool to see all those. It takes about an hour probably to get through all the jewels because there's so many of them.
And then also as well, there's always a line out the door of people wanting to see the crown jewels because it's really the main attraction of the Tower of London.
Right.
But I think that some of the jewels are in dispute from what I've heard. From what I can tell, I'm obviously no expert, but they're certainly shiny enough to be believable.
Yeah.
If that means anything. Just they have kind of an escalator where you scroll by some of them, and as you move past, the light shining, all the diamonds are flickering. It's really a sight to see.
Yeah.
Pretty
if you're ever
good.
in London, Tower of London is definitely a must-see attraction. Right. It's way worth the money, and that's only the first thing we've talked about in the Tower of London. There's a lot more to it that we'll get to now.
Yeah.
So there's people who are specifically Tower of London guards, and they always have been, and they're called beefeaters. No one really knows why. There's no exact reason. We'll get into maybe some of the theories.
Some theories, yeah.
But basically, they're the guys who guard the castle, and they're there. Most of them live in the castle or in the tower, which it's a big complex, so it's not just one single tower. But they basically live there. They give the tours of the place. They're considered the ceremonial bodyguards for the queen in different events, and they're also really knowledgeable, really nice people. And in order to become a beefeater, you had to have already done, prior to trying to be one, you had to have already done 22 years of military service, which is incredibly impressive when you think about it. And then they get to come to the Tower of London and kind of just be the protectors of it. So that you'll see video of them as well. But they're really cool, and they're all nice people. Everyone that we talk to, funny people. But yeah, they're basically the guards of the Tower of London.
And I think it's really cool that it's not just some job that, some 25-year-old wants to be a tour guide of a tourist attraction. It's, people with real military service that, certainly have a sense of patriotism, probably because of that, for their country. So, and they apply to that as kind of a way to retire from their military service, which I thought was very cool. All very energetic. Not
All
afraid
seem
to raise their voice so everyone in the group can hear them and kind of wake everyone up.
And they all seem like they love what they do as well, which really sells when you're taking a tour. All tour guides make it look like they love what they do, but you can really tell that these guys truly love what they do, which is really cool.
They're great. Can't praise them enough.
Deep underground is where we kept the torture equipment. So people like Guy Fawkes and many other people, they were taken down there, they were stretched on the rack to gain information. These days, we've managed to make the area even scarier.
So we followed a tour with the Beefeaters, and they explained some of the things kind of in passing, all the different towers that made up the Tower of London itself. So they had the Bloody Tower, which I thought was maybe the most interesting. There were two young princes that were living there and were murdered during Richard III's reign. Many people think by Richard III, in order that so he could kill those princes off and he would become the king.
Take the throne.
He did. The Shakespeare plays written about that, and they had some really cool like animation and stuff. And the bodies were later found, I believe, in that tower or somewhere in the tower.
They were found in like the bottom of a stairwell. They were
Right.
like, I think one of the stairwells had been bombed, so they were like digging out the rubble, and they happened to find two skeletons that looked like they would be skeletons of small boys.
Right.
And they then tried to put it together that those were probably the two princes who were killed in the tower. So that's how it got the name
The Bloody
Tower. The Tower of London itself is a really dark place. Even though it holds the
Absolutely.
crown jewels now, and it has always, it also was a
Many
place
executions.
of, it was many executions, and it was also a place of torture. And it even has a torture chamber area in it.
Right.
And you're even able to, in the torture chamber, when you enter, you see three machines, so-called, that were basically used for torture. One of them being what's called the rack, which is basically a human stretching.
Right. Yeah.
There's no other way that I think I could describe it, rather than saying it's to stretch a human. It's hard to put together. Imagine. But like people like Guy Fawkes were taken to the Tower of London and were interrogated and stretched to try to get information out of, and many other, infamous people
Right.
were taken there. So the torture chambers were really dark, but really cool place to
interesting.
go. Yeah, really
Yeah.
cool place.
Let's see. What else? In
The
Tower of
arsenal,
London?
the arsenal is also in there in the,
Right.
the Royal Armory. So that was super cool.
They had some weapons from around the world, which was really my favorite part. That they had kind of exchanged with these countries. We'll give you an old English flintlock pistol, and you
Sure.
can give us a sword or something like that. So I took some pictures of some pistols that I saw in there and other weapons that actually I honestly took a picture of them because it reminded me of Counter-Strike. It's one of my favorite games that I play.
It's fair. It's fair.
And so I thought they were really cool. Probably splice those pictures.
Yeah,
in there
you'll
for
see
you
them
guys to
somewhere.
see. But yeah, the armory was pretty interesting. Too,
Yeah. So overall, the Tower of London was super cool. They even just because I remembered. We were walking by at one point around the grounds of the tower, and were doing like a medieval like reenactment of there was like a queen who was about to be coronated, so there was two, I guess, noble people or knights or military people who were kind of having a sword fight. So I have video of that, so we'll throw that in there somewhere as well.
that was cool too.
Which is cool. Which kind of puts you back in time, kind of makes you feel like you were actually there at the real
Right.
time. So, but yeah, that kind of concluded the Tower of London. And then right outside the Tower of London, rightfully named as the Tower Bridge, which is a massive bridge. It's a drawbridge.
Guys, so we just finished with the
Tower
Tower
of
of
London. Walked out through all the torture chambers. We
saw a lot of crown jewels as
Yep.
promised.
Yeah, and they were really cool. A lot of really stuff that, like, one of the crown jewels had only been worn once. It's
Right.
probably worth more than anything else
in the world ever.
ever. Literally only been worn once, and that's the
Tower Bridge.
Tower Bridge.
Just descended, just missed it, but we fortunately got a time lapse of it. So,
Yep, so we'll throw that in there somewhere. So
yep.
yeah, so now we're probably just gonna walk around London, grab some dinner. So we'll see if we need to update you guys, but see you later. So we actually were lucky enough to see it. I guess it was ascending
right.
when we happened to get out there. So we'll throw a video of it ascending. And up there, super cool to see it move, and then boats go under, and then it recloses again, obviously. And it's a driving bridge and a walking bridge, obviously. We didn't walk over it just because we were tired and didn't have enough time. But really pretty bridge,
Yeah. Super.
just
cool.
right across the Thames. Thames. Haven't
One
really
of them.
one of those two, right across the river there, and separates the two sides of London. So then after that, yeah, we basically were pretty tired. The Tower of London really was almost a whole day thing.
Full day, yeah.
You know, it's a lot of walking around, just a lot of history to take in. We pretty much said after that, we don't want to go to another museum. We were
Yeah.
pretty much historyed out for the day, so we just grabbed dinner and then hopped back on the underground and came back here
back
to
to
Winchester. which it's really easy to get from London to Winchester, we've found.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say we've started to master the underground.
we're definitely getting grips with it.
We're getting better.
And the more I understand it, the more I like it. I think it's super cool.
It's
Every
really
city
efficient.
needs one.
Yeah, it's really efficient, even more efficient so than most subway systems
Right.
I think that we have in the States. And interestingly, the day we were in London, actually, if you follow NFL football, the weekend we were in last weekend, there was NFL games going on at Wembley Stadium in London. So it was kind of weird to be walking around the underground, and you would see people wearing, like,
Dolphins.
Baltimore
really-
Ravens shirt,
yeah,
like jerseys.
Patriots.
No
It's
teams
really-
which were playing
Yeah.
there, but
I mean, I guess it would be the equivalent of us going to a football match here and just wearing whatever jersey we brought with us. So,
right.
like maybe wearing an Arsenal game to a Man City game. Not that we could get tickets for a Man United Man City rivalry game, but it's just they just kind of latch on to players who
Latch on to teams that they just
get
know.
a lot of coverage most likely. So.
Yeah, but so that was cool to be in London when that game was going on. So then Sunday we just all were very tired after 2
Right.
days of doing castles and Tower of London. So we pretty much just slept all of Sunday. But we did decide, big announcement.
booked Budapest.
Going to
for
Budapest.
the whole next week.
Yeah, we're going to Budapest tomorrow. Actually, we are flying tomorrow out of London Stansted, and we'll be back on Sunday. So we basically have 4 nights in Budapest, and I know I'm really excited to go to Budapest.
I really don't know what to expect, but given Ryan's recommendation, and especially he keeps telling us that it's his dad's favorite city, and they're both very well traveled, so I am excited to say the least. Should
Yeah,
be a good time.
we already decided on Thursday night. We get there tomorrow night, obviously, and then on Thursday night, our hostel that we're staying at hosts a river cruise on the Danube River, which is apparently supposed to be really pretty, and it's apparently the
Right.
way to see Budapest. So we'll be doing that at night. So we'll probably take some video of that.
Oh,
Next
I
week's
would
vlog
hope
is definitely going to have some real heavy video, just because we have 4 days where we're going to be traveling. And then
The
we've got
thermal baths.
there's thermal baths we'll be going to, and they have a party in the thermal baths we'll probably go to.
Right.
We're probably gonna be dead on Sunday when we get back. Our flight on Sunday is at like 6:30 in the morning out of Budapest,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be a rough one. Might just not sleep that night. Who knows? But so they really look forward to next week. It's gonna be I think it'll be a really
keep
good
on
thing.
watching.
And we just got more trips and more trips coming up. So, but other than that,
I think we're about ready to sign off.
yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
See ya. Oh.